Oh, that's me. It's me. I'm so excited.
What happened to your face?
Well, I got into a fight with a penguin, but don't worry. I won.
Okay. Say I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
A little more bat, a little less man.
Okay, I'm Batman.
Yeah, maybe if you had a Batmobile. Next!
Well, wait. I'm a time traveling model maker. I can make a Batmobile. Roll the intro. What does she mean I can't be Batman without having a Batmobile? Didn't she see my Wookiee pajamas? Well, I guess there's only one way to fix this. With the Metal Earth Premium Series Batman Tumbler. Yes, Groovers, this build has over 165 parts of Batman goodness. And it comes from our friends over at Fascinations. So thank you guys so much for sending me this to check out. Now there's only a couple of questions we have. What tools do you need to build the tumbler? What are the tricky bits, like that little front there? Very, very Darth Vader-esque, if you ask me. And lastly, will this get me the part as Batman? Because it definitely should. Let's get down to the workbench and take a look at our package. And boom, there we have it. All of our stuff out from our package. And yes, there's quite a bit here with our really cool metal sheets all covered in black. But one thing I noticed right away from our typical metal models to this one is that all of our sheets came wrapped in our instructions. Pretty neat little concept. Speaking of those, let's go ahead and take a look at our instructions. These guys here open up and reveal quite a lot. The first thing we're going to see here is our parts page. This has all of our different pieces all laid out with numbers. Super important. And when we look at this, we can see a couple of different things. The first thing you'll notice is all of the colors. Anything that is blue, like up here, is exactly the same as the other piece like it that's blue. So 2 blue pieces, exactly the same. 2 green pieces, exactly the same. Sometimes you'll see these little guys here scattered throughout. One will be right here, another one will be up here. Keep that in mind. Sometimes if you're trying to find a piece and you can't find it, it might be on another sheet. And especially when we're dealing with multiple pieces like the ones we have here in blue, it'll be easier to find if we look at all of the sheets. All right, now let's turn this around here. Now I know a lot of veterans out there already know this stuff, but if you're new here, it comes in handy. This is where we find out how to bend our pieces and what tools they'll suggest for us to be able to build everything. The first thing we see right here is a description of the engraved and non-engraved side. When we're looking at our pieces, the non-engraved side is the shiny piece. The engraved side is the black metal piece. Now, when it comes to actually bending our pieces, we want to get right up to those little fold lines before attempting to bend anything else. Sometimes we can bend the detail or the little bits that are just right there next to the fold line, which can be a pain in the butt. So always make sure you go right to the fold line. Next, we have the slot and the tab. Both of these are super important for securing your pieces. The slot acts as a hole where we'll put our tab through, and we'll have a choice whether to bend or twist the tab. How we do that is indicated by these circles and triangles here scattered throughout our instructions. A few other things that are scattered throughout are these other little emblems. Like we covered earlier, we have the engraved and the non-engraved. We also have a point of attention. Usually this means that either a piece might be in the way of another, or it might break if there's too much tension. It's just a point that we need to show a little bit more attention to as we play with the different parts. Hence, an attention point. Attention pointing. I think we get it. Now we get to the tools section. Metal Earth recommends a pair of tweezers, nippers, and 2 different kinds of pliers to be able to get this done. This is where we differ. I personally like to carry my own tools, and my personal recommendation for the Batmobile is, well, first off, some good quality nippers. There's all different kinds of nippers out there, but you really do want to have some that have a really nice point on them. This makes it a lot easier for us to be able to get our parts out. Next thing we want to take a look at is our tweezers. Now for this build, because we're dealing with a whole bunch of small pieces, I'm going to be using a whole bunch of different kinds of detailed tweezers. But if you only have these little guys at home, don't worry, these are still perfect. They can do pretty much everything my detailed tweezers can do, is that these guys make it a little bit easier to get into the hard parts. Another tool we're going to be using is these little hand mandrels. They look like this. This is a step mandrel, this is a hand mandrel. Both of these are great for creating circular pieces on different size scales, especially when it comes to working with some of our bigger pieces. It's nice to have something like this where we can get a nice round shape and we can really press the metal into it to get that nice curve, or something like this that has a nice little cone on it. Both of these tools come in handy at different points in time, and I'm just looking at the picture here. Yeah, you can see how these might come in handy. Finally, the last tool we're going to talk about is these guys right here. This is my dapping set. Now, over the years, I've gotten so many different questions about this. Unfortunately, these ones are no longer offered, but if you look around, you can find all different kinds of sets out there. These are great for shaping different kinds of domes, but they're also great for getting cylinders and a bunch of other different kind of weird shapes when it comes to making our metal. I absolutely love these guys, but you can also get a similar effect by using a spoon. All right, Groovers, we looked at our instructions. We have all our tools. There's only one thing left to do before we get started, and that's for you guys to press that like and subscribe button. We're currently trying to get to 4,000 subscribers and really could use your help. No pressure at all, though. It's just those two buttons. I'm sure you know where they are. Gonna build my stuff, a Batmobile. Just gotta wait for them to press the buttons. Oh, no, seriously, no pressure, no pressure. What do you think, Pikachu? Everything good? Oh, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. We got all kinds of cool projects coming out in the future, and knowing that you're gonna be here is pretty awesome. All right, now let's get down to the workbench and start building this Batman Tumbler.
And just like that, we begin building the Metal Earth Premium Series Batman Tumbler. It feels great to be starting this year off with a detailed Metal Earth build, and of course, I jumped right into the fire with this one. The Tumbler is definitely not for the faint of heart, and before we get into the depths of the Bat plans, I want to let you know I have a 4-part series already uploaded on the channel showing you how to do everything step by step. So if you're looking for a little help or just a building partner, go on over there and check that out. Now let's get to the good stuff, starting with our front details. Right off the bat, we start with our front with these angled and wheeled details. Angled shapings are something that we're going to be doing a lot of, so getting a good technique that works for you is key. At first, you might be tempted to guess the angles of the pieces, but in most cases, you can use another part to get the idea of how much shaping is needed. I use this method for 2 major reasons. 1, it helps with better shapings, and 2, the metal is a little bit thinner than before. At first, I really didn't notice it, but when I started to form our wheel details, I began to notice something was up. Our wheel details are formed with ribbons, cones, and squares. When forming the cones, I noticed the metal curled way easier than before. I thought it was just me, but as we went along, it became more and more noticeable. We'll touch on that a little bit more later. Part 15 holds the front details and acts like a hub for linking our formed parts. Because we have so many holes, we need to be careful of our tab's placement. It's easy to get the wrong hole here, builders. After checking our placement, a tight twist followed by the jiggle test is all we need to see if it's good to go. Everything seems solid. That means we can move on to the windshield and roof details. While these are slanted, I found these parts pretty straightforward for what they were. Using detailed tweezers as a mini break can be helpful for some of these smaller parts, but keep in mind though, we're not attaching the roof just yet. No, we have some hardcore slanted detail to get through for our sides. Yes, these pieces are a little harder than what we're used to when it comes to these kinds of models. Still, don't let the lines freak you out. Keep in mind the tips from earlier. Double check the instructions to see the orientation and use the other parts to get an idea of how much you need to bend each thing. All throughout steps 14 and 15, we have small pieces that need to fit into bigger parts. If these parts don't fit together, then you have some more bending to do. Just keep in mind, this metal can only bend so many times. There is a limit, and well, more on that in a minute. After getting one side done, we have to do it again for the other side. I found step 15 to come together a lot better than step 14. That might be because it's the same shaping just on the other side, but I felt that these parts fit better together. If you have built this model, let me know in the comments down below if you've also noticed this too. I would love to hear from you. Now, with our side panels done, it's time to start with our back details. Our back is a bit of a mixed bag. With step 16, we make the booster, then move on to building up the support hub, wheel wells, and wheels. The wheels are similar to what we have done before in the earlier steps, but they do need the parts to go in the right order. You may need to rotate the pieces to get them to fit together because they can only go in 2 ways. I try to do my best to keep all the connections on the bottom of the tumbler. This way, the seams are a lot less visible. Looking pretty good, but now we need to talk about step 24. If you have been watching my news videos, you know that some people have reported that the metal is thinner than before in the newer models, and that the paint chips easier too. After handling these parts, I unfortunately have to agree. Like I said earlier, there is a limit to how much you can bend these parts, and with the newer metal, it's less than before. That doesn't mean that it's bad, but the vets out there will notice a difference. You almost have to relearn how to handle the parts, and I have to admit I broke the suspension on both sides before the end. The small triangle connections just can't handle the stress. I thought it was just me because I was rusty, but after posting about this on Instagram, I found that a lot of people have broken this step and it seems pretty common, along with the roof connection on top, which I also broke, but more on that in a second. Overall, it's important to take your time here on step 24 and all smaller parts. You don't want to break a whole bunch of pieces here and not be able to complete your tumbler. Okay, let's put all of our big pieces together. I was nervous going into this stage. We had already broken parts, I wasn't sure if everything was connected correctly, and that would double for the shapings. Nevertheless, we pushed on like Bruce Wayne after losing his parents, but instead of becoming billionaires, we were going to become something better, bat tab bending builders. Step 28 starts off with us connecting steps 27 and 26 to part 118. Make sure to connect these bad boys nice and tight. These 3 parts are going to be some of the main supports for all the other details going on the tumbler. Now we can add on the front. You may need to twist a few of these tabs here to get the front stable and then go back and bend them over. When it comes to our side panels, these need a little bit of finesse to get right. I found that by connecting the outer tabs first, I was able to get the center tab lined up. That center tab is tricky to get in place and took me a few tries to get right. Once I did though, I made sure to get a really good connection before moving on. I also cleaned up the sides too and made sure that all the tabs for the roof were prepped and ready to go, because oh boy is that roof a pain. Speaking of which, we need to connect the back and the sides for our roof. Oh, but that's not going to be easy. You see, the tabs that connect the back broke almost instantly. The metal was so thin around the connection, and unlike earlier, there's really no parts that can make up for that piece. Luckily, the side panels are enough to hold everything in place, but trying to get those sides of the roof into their tab areas is another battle. You will need to make several small corrections in order to be able to get the roof tabs in their place. Connecting one side at a time will make things harder, but it might be a necessary evil to get the roof on. Finally, we got that last tab. Let's put the final touches on this, shall we?
And boom, there we have it, the Metal Earth Premium Series Batman Tumbler in all of its glory. This build was not easy, as you've seen. There was a lot of things that required us to go back and reshape, and it was really hard to get everything exactly the way we needed it to be. And that's a mixture of the instructions kind of being laid out a little bit funny, and the metal being thinner than what we're used to. You know, I've built Metal Earth models for almost 6 years now, and in that time we've built all kinds of builds, including this Mega R2-D2 over here. And when you compare the metal to this guy, well, it comes out that this one here is a lot thicker than this guy here. Now, that could be because of the detail that's needed to be achieved with this, but it also could be because of a different manufacturer. And when we have a different manufacturer, sometimes it means the materials change, and that could be why we're seeing this. Now, the trade-off could be that we're going to get a lot more models. I mean, if you look at the amount of models that Metal Earth's been putting out, it's quite a bit. So I would imagine that by changing manufacturers, they were able to get out more builds. So the trade-off to me is okay, but you do need to know that the metal is thinner. So if you're used to building these kinds of builds and you go into this with, oh, I'm gonna get this thing done super quick, my friend, you're gonna break a lot of pieces, just like I did, and I wasn't even trying to rush. Now, can I recommend this build for people out there that are getting into the hobby? Absolutely not. This is not a build for people that are just getting into the hobby. Can I recommend this build for more experienced builders out there? Absolutely. If you have a couple of builds under your belt, I should actually say, if you have a lot of builds under your belt and you're looking for something that's going to challenge you but also look amazing when it's done, I would say look no further than the Batman Tumbler. This thing is absolutely amazing and one that I'll have proudly displayed in my collection. You just need to be mindful about what you're getting into. If you have the skills, a good bat plan, and of course some patience, you'll be able to add yourself the Batman Tumbler to your collection too. Alright Groovers, that's the end of our show. I really enjoyed building the Batman Tumbler with you, and if you guys had a good time, don't forget to press that like button. For more videos like this, hit subscribe as well, as we've got all kinds of cool content coming out in the future, and I would love to have you there. Thank you very much to Fascinations for sending me this tumbler. I love building these builds with you guys, and if you love them too, go ahead and send them some love as well. Until next time, keep building. All right, now I have my tumbler. They can't ignore my audition.